On page 12 and 13, we're going to be looking at how to read an explanation. An explanation tells us how and why something happens or explains a process. Look at the explanation below, which is called the structures of the earth, and I want you to think about how you might read it. So when I look at how I might read it, I think about first looking at the headings. So the headings are the layers of the earth, plate movements, and then there would be the diagrams that I would look at. So the diagram here. So when I read the structure of the earth, I know that two subheadings, layers of earth and plate movements, are going to be the two topics that we're going to be reading about within this explanation. So let's read. The Earth's interior is made of rock and metal. It has four main layers: inner core, solid metal; outer core, liquid and molten; mantle, dense and mostly solid rock; and crust, thin rock material. The temperature in the core is hotter than the sun's surface. The heat causes material in the outer core and mantle layers to move around deep inside the Earth. When I look at this diagram is placed right after this set of text so that it shows you even more about that text. Then I can read plate movements. Earth's crust is broken into many large and small plates that move very slowly, much too slowly to see with the naked eye. Mountain ranges are pushed up if two plates crashes into each other. Other surface features are also the result of moving plates, including the shape of the continents. These movements can have dramatic effects on people and landscapes. So as we read, we also want to be thinking about making connections to what we read. When we make connections, what we do as readers is we lock in that information that we're reading by kind of adding it into a picture that we already have in our head, related to what we're learning about. So it's a really good way for you to remember things that you're reading. So one of the ways that we make connections is we think about what we already know about the topic. We think about anything that we've read that might be similar to it, or does this topic remind me of something that I've seen in the media? So that would mean something that you've seen in the news or on TV or in commercials, any form of media. When you don't know the meaning of the word, let's say, for example, you weren't sure about the word mantle. There are some clues that you can use. So what clues can you get from the diagrams and the pictures that might help you? So if you take a look at this diagram, the word mantle is actually giving us kind of a clue because it's pointing right to a layer of the earth. What clues can I see in the word structure? So that one, if I looked at the word structure, it's mantle. I don't think it has anything to do with man, so that might not be a clue that would work for me. And what other words does this remind me of? So that's another one that you can use to help you. So if you take a look at the word explode, for example, X, and you think of other X words, that might also help you figure out the word explode. When you want to make sure that you understand what you're reading, please pause and check by asking, what did you learn? Does this make sense? And how does the information connect to what I've read before? So you're going to be doing these three activities all week. You're going to start with making connections. So what do you know? And then what are you going to add to it as you read? And then you're going to talk about finding clues in what you read, and you're going to be making sure you understand what you've read. So those are going to be some of the ways that you're going to respond to the text tornadoes this week. This little section here is talking about how to read diagrams. So when you're reading a diagram, you're going to look at the overall impression of what the diagram is about. You're going to look at each part on the diagram. So you've got the title, you've got the labels here, and you've got a caption related to it as well. Focus on the large part first. Well, what's the large part of this diagram? Clearly, it's the earth and its core. Read the caption. That's the little section here that describes the picture. That's what a caption does. And then look for words in the caption that are also used in the labels diagrams. So upper mantle. All of a sudden, now you can look for upper mantle here. Why did the author include this diagram? Well, if we look at the diagram over here, the author used it to add to the information that they were writing about. So sometimes what they like to do in a diagram is they like to give you more of a picture to help you visualize the information that you're reading about. That actually is a really good way for your brain to remember things. Okay, and then when we summarize, that's one way that we can say a little bit about what we've learned or what we've understood from the text. Okay, so after reading this video or listening to this video, you can go ahead and reference page 12 and 13. You can read them on your own, and that's all your work is for today.